Welcome to PPI Conversations, an opportunity to connect with leading edge thinkers and leaders and discuss today's pressing topics in the engineering and construction industry. With your host, PPI Executive Director Gary Fisher. We at PPI address the root cause of major capital project cost and schedule overruns through the research and dissemination of project production management and its foundation of operations science. Enjoy the conversation.
So have you ever wondered what life is like as a subcontractor on receiving end of all those decisions made by well-intentioned project and construction managers? Schedules are set, designs are completed, mountains of specifications are issued, project requirements established, and lots of commitments are made. All flowing downhill to a subcontractor who's tasked with meeting all those expectations, plus makes them a reasonable profit so they can stay in business. Well, if you'd like to hear what that world is like, stay tuned. Today, we're privileged to have Bob Snyder III, known to us as RB Cubed, from Binsky. Binsky is a mechanical contractor, typically one of those subs I just talked about. So welcome, Bob. I'm glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Gary. Really excited to be here today. It's actually RB3, but I kind of like RB Cube.
Oh, it's not Cube, huh? Okay. Well, I like Cube, so there you
go. We'll roll with it.
Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing what life is like from your vantage point. You know, the waste you see in the system, how you handle on the receiving end of all those things, what you think about it, and what Binsky is doing about the challenges you see with project production management. So let's get started by telling the audience a little bit about who you are, where you got started, how you worked up to your current role, and what is your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. So my current role right now is I am a production coordination manager here at Binsky. And I'll get into a little bit more of what that role entails as we go along. Kind of my story is I started in the industry, really. I mean, we're a fourth generation mechanical contractor. I've been around this really my whole life. I was sweeping the floors in the tool shop, working as an intern in estimating in high school, going into college. And then from there, once I graduated college, I did a little stint and I moved and got my master's degree in actual data science and Russian language. So little different.
Oh, let's say
a little bit of a different.
You got your master's in data science?
Yes. So it was master's. It was actually primarily a Russian master's with data science focus, actually.
Wow. Okay.
So a little bit different, but after I graduated, I wanted to get back into the industry, and I came to Binsky. There was a job opened up, whereas I work with my dad, and he really approached me and was like, "Hey, we want to start taking a look at all of our processes. We want to start automating it." At the time, we were moving from a smaller fabrication facility up to a fabrication shop about 160,000 square feet, so pretty large. And he wanted us to review all the processes. So I was charged initially in going and working actually in the tool shop, with the same people that I used to work for in high school, which was pretty fun, and review their processes and then start automating that process. Really turning it from phone calls and people writing lists on napkins into something formalized requisition. So I went and I started through there, kind of got familiar with the company, and about 6 months into it, I got approached again and was like, "Hey, Bob, this is kind of winding down. There's this really cool thing called production system optimization. You have familiarization with some processes internally here. Let's start mapping our fabrication processes and actually look at the capacity and start optimizing them." So that's really how I got involved in that. And I made my way out into the field more. And they gave me a role of a production coordination manager. So really what that entails is I have a bunch of field teams. I'm working on 10 jobs right now. Actually, I just got my 10th one yesterday, working on implementing PPM and project production control out on site. So it's been a really exciting journey.
Excellent. Well, back up a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about Binsky and the kind of work you all do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a fifth generation mechanical contractor based out of New Jersey. We've done work kind of all over, a little bit in New York, a little bit in Pennsylvania, but primarily in New Jersey. And really our focus and what we're very good at is process. So, and a lot of pharmaceutical piping. So luckily being in New Jersey, that's really kind of our niche market. And we typically work for a lot of the large pharmaceuticals installing the process piping. So that's been a lot of fun. We also really initially kind of started out doing more like the schools and like apartment buildings and so forth. But eventually we graduated and moved up into working mostly at like medical facilities at universities and research facilities. So that's really what we like to do and kind of where we see our really our business grow very well.
So are you primarily subcontractor then in the?
Yes, we are exclusively subcontractors. So we will always be working for a general contractor or construction manager.
Yeah. And so as a mechanical sub, you're really on the receiving end of lots of decisions, lots of commitments, a lot of stuff coming your way. What's that world like, and what issues do you routinely see that affect your ability to perform your work and make a living?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of as we get introduced to this world of PPCs, you start to think about the world and the job itself as a full production system from start to finish, really from idea all the way through that final installation and startup. So we go in with that mentality, yet we have difficulties where the construction managers and general contractors are not going in with that mindset and viewing it as a production system. So a lot of times, a lot of those decisions are already made for us on, for example, on the sequence of how they want us to install our work, on really the duration and the capacity that they want us to be using for that installation. Whereas they're not, we found that it's difficult when you're not viewing the job as a whole production system to really play with those levers, right? So we find that we have difficulties with like not necessarily with the schedule itself, but with the lack of flexibility and really not coming to being pulled to the table earlier to actually have that conversation with the owner about the actual design of the process and the project itself, especially the mechanical side. The reality is we're mechanical contractors. We know pipe the best, and construction managers and general contractors are great administrators, but they don't necessarily understand the full scope of our work to the detail that is necessary to really sequence it out and try to save as much time and as much money as possible for the owner.
So what percentage of the time would you say you get pulled into the front end of a project to provide your expertise to guide those kinds of decisions?
Ooh, probably sub 5%, maybe
5%,
2%. Really? Yeah. So we call that rare process design assist, and it's relatively rare, but really the benefits of coming in early and actually designing the piping is it's tremendous, right? We see a lot working with the owner alongside the construction manager as a team to design this process. We found that we have been incredibly successful at really like looking at the work from day one, right?
So that's a big area of a waste, if you will, that robs the owner of time and money. What else do you see in the system that robs the owner of time and money?
Yeah, I think managing capacity and the whole idea of really just earned value in general. Money spent unfortunately does not equal job completion percentage. Yeah. So we find that construction managers and a lot of these projects that we work on want to see a lot of work in process in the field, right? They want to be looking at the work and investing really heavily in the front end of the project. Meanwhile, there's no real conversations and no really running any analytical models on what our capacity should be and how much is this WIP actually, the work in process, hampering our productivity. So I think that is a big time and money waster on site that I personally see.
So do you see yourself getting pressured to advance work that shouldn't be advanced to get the numbers?
Yeah. And a lot of that is it's throwing men at open spaces without understanding the how capacity directly impacts your productivity. For example, we're working on a project now, a pharmaceutical project, and we're doing a lot of the fabrication. And we're fabricating 2 pipe racks a day right now at our current capacity with 2 crews. they want to pull up the job, which is absolutely okay with us. We can do that. We're going to throw a third crew on, and you'd expect that, hey, 3 crews, 3 pipe racks a day, right? It's actually running PPC and running the control aspect of it. We've been able to pull the data and found that they're actually like making 2.7 pipe racks per day now. So it's just a direct impact of putting more capacity will lower your productivity overall.
Yeah, that's a great example. So how's your GC responding to that feedback? And
yeah, so it's kind of difficult to get the general contractor and the construction manager to the table to have these conversations. And that's really what we want. And we see kind of this evolution of the next step is bringing in, because the reality is we can only control our work. We can only control our small production system. And there are many other subcontractors on the job. So it's very hard to coordinate with the other subcontractors if they're not running PPC, project production control on the job. So we found that the general contractor is not necessarily receptive and can view us as being defensive when doing this, whereas the reality is we want to be progressive and we want to pull them into the conversation and really sit down and do scheduling with them and go and look at the actual, look at all the individual process centers and look through the job through like the lens of a production system. So I have an example of the kind of a project that we're working on. It's actually, funnily enough, it is the same project. So we went in early and we're sitting around the table. More or less, it's a large underground plumbing piping project where it's double wall stainless steel containment system. So it's very complex piping. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the work of the pharmaceutical, all of the dirt was irradiated, or not irradiated, but it was is contaminated by former waste, right? So doing the underground, we're sitting down and having the conversation. They're proposing to us, they're like, okay, so we're going to go take the dirt. We'll go dig it up. We'll go get rid of it. Then we'll refill in with new dirt. And then you guys can go in and you can dig holes and then put in your piping like that. And we were sitting there and we were thinking, we're like, that doesn't make sense. And initially the project was 150 days. We're like, that doesn't make sense. What if you pull the pipe out and we actually build your underground above ground and then refill it back up? And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. So we developed this modular system and we were able to go sit down and run. I think working with our team, I ran, 6 to 7 different scenarios based on different capacity and rates for the installation ourselves. And we were able to pull that 150 days down to, we're estimating 40 days actually now.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, coming, I guess the question, it still falls around like how receptive is the GC. They loved the idea initially, and we decided to go with it.
Yeah.
Yet we go and because we kind of were at that initial point, we're part of the scheduling process. We're going and running all these different scenarios and presenting different dates with different amount of investment. If you put $750,000 into the project, you could pull it up 1 week, but if you put in $2 million, you could only pull it up 9 days, and so forth. And really, kind of the reception on that has not been as engaging as we would have liked it to be. It's not coming to the table and talking about it and like what the best solution is. So it's just pulling the data, really.
Sounds like you're making progress though. That's a really good example.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been running the PPC. We put our fabrication in control as well, which is a really daunting process. And we've mapped out the job to about the 15-minute mark. So,
so hang on to that thought. I
apologize.
Ourselves here a little bit. So, how did you become aware of production management? What's the story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, I became aware of it through my father, who was exposed probably about 2 years ago, and really was exposed. And it took him a while to kind of understand it and get in touch with the right people. But at some point, one day, he came to me. He's like, "Hey, we're going to map our fabrication processes. It's called production system optimization. I'm going to put you in touch with some guys and we're going to start talking about it." So really trial by fire.
And that was it. You got thrown into it and there you go.
Immediately, Gary, immediately. And there was no real turning back. I really just kind of soaked it in. My background in doing that data analysis, I love that we were starting to quantify our work. And I really enjoyed actually talking about the work itself. Which is, I feel like, something as an industry we're not as good at as we should be.
which is really remarkable coming from someone that does the work.
Yeah, I know.
Stop
It's
thinking about that.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, and I talk a lot about this, is over like the last 20, 30 years is we've seen ourselves and our industry turn into more of an administrative apparatus than anything. And I think a lot of that is in response for growing technologies, the increased administration of construction management, the increased administration and demand from the client. And well, we've turned and become like these expert administrators, right? Submitting requests for information and getting all your submittals in, understanding your spec, doing your change orders, all these things we got very, very good at. But the one thing that we started to fall away from is the actual work itself and growing people and as members of our company to actually help run the men in the field with alongside the superintendent and alongside the foreman. So that's been really kind of something that we see in our field and going on this journey and talking about the work is we're seeing more than just profitability, increased our ability to finish projects faster and increase our rates, but it's really like creating this culture shift in our industry that's been really a fascinating byproduct of it.
And so talk more about that, because these are the problems you're addressing in industry and in your work through production management. So tell me more about how it's affecting the culture on your jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was one of the biggest surprises for me and something that I did not expect, and really a byproduct of it all is that bringing in the foreman and talking about the work is we've seen the young people that we were putting in charge of this task of implementing PPC on a daily basis grow tremendously and learn like 5x, 10x of what they could have learned. I mean, I was down on one of our job sites the other day, and I started this journey in October, and I was talking to the foreman and sitting down with him, actually reviewing a future project that I had worked and mapped out the really how it's going to be built and reviewing with him. And I was telling him, was like, when I came on day one to this project in October, I didn't know pipe had a hole in it. And now I can go and to this point where I'm helping you actually design how we're going to install it over a course of months, something that if you're not talking about the work every day takes years to accomplish. Yeah. So it's really, we found it incredibly beneficial, bringing younger people into the industry, starting to talk about the work really from day one and growing them to understand how pipe's actually installed. So one day that as they progress their careers, we can change it and turn them into really, really amazing project managers that have experience working, understanding the work, and are also excited to work with construction managers and hopefully clients at some point.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I caught that, because this sounds like a really important point. So this is helping you accelerate the transfer of knowledge from people that have been doing the work for years and years and years and years, hands-on doing the work, to new to career, less experienced folks. By mapping the work processes, they get to walk through it with people that are very experienced, and they get a deeper understanding of how the work actually needs to get done. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and it's the mapping is where it starts, right? Because then you're starting to understand area completions and what the sequence of installs, but actually sitting down and running a daily cadence with the men and on a daily basis talking about the work. And a lot of the times, I mean, we say we love red X's because that's data points. For 90% of the time, it's not our fault. It's not the guy in the field who's working hard's fault that something wasn't done. It's our fault as an organization for not setting him up for success, whether or not that be through other subcontractors, construction managers. It's our job as the mechanical contractor to be able to help coordinate that, right? So bringing these young people in to talk about all those issues and talk about the work every day it's been a really fun process. And I've been so impressed by the growth of my team over this past few months, really, more than anything.
So are you starting to find yourself with a library of standard work processes that you're able to draw from for that next one to get started with?
Yeah, so we're starting to really build that out for our installation paths. We've found really for our fabrication, we built out a lot of standard processes on double wall containment. The issue is we don't make much double wall containment, so they might be one of the standard processes. But we've looked at our process of like receiving fabrication, bringing it to the site, bring it to the area of install, building out those level of standard processes, putting out standard processes for joint installation, and really. Sure. It's an ever growing list, and it's an ever evolving process as well, because as we get better at quantifying the work and understanding our rates, we can of course update those. And hopefully, I mean, we sat down at the beginning of this job for the fabrication, and we were brought in the formula, like, how long does it take to do a 6-inch stainless steel weld? He's like, roughly 4 hours. By doing this, by mapping the work and running standard processes on that, we were able to quantify that it's actually taking us an average of an hour and a half. So wow. It's like double the amount of time. It's crazy, the results.
Wow, that's
just from doing this.
So you're using production control, you said, on a job right now.
Yes.
Tell me more about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what kind of results you're seeing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, we're actually running production control on 10 jobs right now.
Oh, wow.
So because we have many smaller projects, and we want to try to run production control on every single one. So what that involves is we have our project engineers, or we call them project production controllers, project production managers, kind of interchangeably working, mapping out the job, and then holding the field accountable to hit their daily expectations. So on a few of our jobs on the larger scale ones, we are running daily cadences. But on some of the other jobs, little smaller jobs, simpler jobs, or if they're in the earlier phases of that BIM engineering virtual design, we're going and running on a weekly cadence.
Mm-hmm. And how are you using it to manage your work in process?
Right now, we're using. So we actually, the really cool thing about being a subcontractor is we're kind of our own internal supplier. Yeah. So we actually are using a conwip signal to manage the amount of work that the fabrication as it goes out, right? Because the conditions of the site are ever changing. Is if you don't get something done today, it might push your fabrication 3 months down the line, a week, right? So, and what we're doing is, as opposed to going, and in the past we've gone and said, we're just going to fab the whole job in one shot. We're using a conwip signal, whereas we only start the process of what we call production engineering. That's actually looking at the work itself, bringing in the field, and understanding where do you want the weld. Something as simple as that can transform your install. We'll cut your install time by half, right? So bringing them into the conversation, and then going and doing the manufacturing. We're only doing that at our last responsible moment for when it needs to be done, so that we can ensure it gets on site, and as soon as it's on, it goes up, and manage our working process like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like production management's really changing the way you guys do business or doing business.
Oh, it's been a dramatic, like, organizational journey that we've started, and we're going to keep going through, because it's really hard, but the results are amazing.
Yeah. So summarize, if you will. If I'm sitting here new to this. Hey, Bob, tell me, why you getting any value out of this thing? I've heard a lot of talk about it. What difference does it make in your bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. In our bottom line, I think you can make about twice the amount of money. You can build probably in roughly half the time just by doing this. And the big thing about managing your work in process and starting to put production control on your projects is you're really able to manage your investment as well, right? It's trying to move away from this idea of money spent equals job completion, right? And understand that your investment doesn't need to be upfront, and you don't need to build up all of the materials and spend it all in one shot. You can go and actually maximize your investment and optimize the rates of install and how fast your project can be done. So coming in, and my words to owners would be going and working with companies that are thinking like this, and working and thinking about your projects like this as actual production systems, and how do we bring in the best companies to work for us who want to view this as a production system and want to implement PPC.
Those are pretty fantastic results. A lot more money, half the time, manage your cash flow in a significant way. So are you getting some attention from the other subs on your jobs? Are they looking as like, hey, what are you guys doing over there?
It's interesting. So because well, we subcontract our people as well. So we
Sure.
subcontract our sheet metal and our insulation. We've started to bring them into the room a little bit to have these conversations, but I I don't think just yet, Gary. To be honest, I think we're going to need some more time still until we're going to get really that full attention from the construction manager, and we kind of like to be low key about it, right? And not flout it and really because we can't change the culture of the job site in one go. We have to get this right on for ourselves first, really. But we have brought it to the attention of some other mechanical contractors, and they're really sitting in the room with sitting in the innovation on an innovation committee meeting and presenting this to them and talking about the work we're doing. They're all amazed by it. So I really am excited to see how this develops in our industry.
Are they amazed in like a good way or amazed?
Oh,
like
they were
or box your minds way?
A little bit of both. I think definitely a little bit of both. They're like, you guys are tracking how many welds you get in a day, or how many bolts you can how quickly you can screw in the bolts. You guys are crazy. But I think they're really impressed as well because they see that the application of this manufacturing mentality is what we really need to drive towards to start to improve our industry as a whole.
Man, it sounds like you're learning a lot through this initiative, both personally and your company.
Oh my goodness. I think really understanding the work has been a big unlock for me. And it kind of happened really recently where I was able to sit down and go and look at drawings, things that I've never really been trained on. And just by talking about the work and going through this process, just knowing how to do it and how to build it, it's really been a very, very fun process. And the people at the Project Production Institute are very nice. Everybody's great, really, in this world. So I'm really excited to kind of explore more and learn more.
Yeah, I know me personally, it changed the way I looked at drawings, just like you said. And I started to ask myself, could I build that? Could I even understand it?
Yeah.
And I got to admit, maybe half the time I couldn't even figure out the drawing I don't even think I could build this if I needed to. You experienced a similar thing?
Occasionally, it's kind of for our work. It's all relatively repetitive, right?
Yeah.
Putting up hangers, putting up piping, testing the piping, insulating the pipes. It's all relatively repetitive work. It's really understanding where you need the professional expertise from the man who's been doing it, or man or woman who's been doing it for 40, 50 years, right? Is like, how are we actually going to sequence building it? And how do we flow our crews from one area to the next so that we're not just throwing capacity at a wall, right? So it's been a lot of fun. And one fun thing that I've kind of learned as I go through this is in the past when I started this program, when I would walk a job site, I would always be looking up. I'd be looking up. I was like, oh, that's installed. Now when I walk a site, all I'm doing is I'm looking down. I'm just looking for a working process to see how we're doing
laying on the ground.
What's laying on the ground. Yeah, exactly.
That's where your time is. Yeah, that's where
that's where your money is.
So,
yeah.
It sounds like this exchange of experience from more experienced people to younger folks or less experienced folks is something you didn't expect. Anything else come up that you really didn't expect to get from this journey?
Yeah, that it works. I didn't expect
that it works.
Okay. And that it works really more than anything. Yeah, that's one of the big things that I didn't expect initially. I thought the returns would take a lot longer to start seeing and the results to start seeing. Whereas I was shocked by how quickly we were able to go into some of these jobs, turn around our jobs, hold our own men accountable, start holding the construction manager and other subcontractors accountable for making sure they're clearing our constraints so that we can go and hit our milestone dates, right? Yeah. I think there was a really this kind of that like immediate turnaround was something that really shocked me, and it's been really exciting to see and kind of energized me to keep driving forward.
That's really cool. So very short term cause and effect. Implementing PPC in just a matter of a week or 2 weeks, you're seeing results.
Yeah, and you can't really dip your toes into it, unfortunately. It's something that you got to go all in as much as you can to get those results, right? So, and to be honest, we failed on some jobs doing this too, because it's very difficult. And we're really starting to see our hitting our stride over probably since it started in October. So we're about 6-7 months in, right? Something like that. We're starting to hit our stride at this point, and we're starting to take on new jobs as projects have finished out, and starting really just developing that production system as soon as we get the award on day one. And that's been a really fun, exciting process to see that turnaround.
So you're starting to take into account when you make a proposal that you can get better performance this way and bid that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually been still a side project, and part of my job is I've been given information for bid proposals, and they're like, can you map out how this is going to be installed based on here's all the information you need.
Yeah.
So it was so it's been a really fun and new part of my job is I've been actually like at that estimating process when we're estimating jobs, going and being given like the information, the drawing, say, hey, Bob, can you map this for us? Can you map this and run scenarios so we can provide that to the client before we even get this job? And it's been really, I really enjoy it. I love just sitting around on my computer and drawing process maps and kind of geeking out a little bit into it. But I think it's a lot of fun to go look at the project before it even starts and try to get in and have that conversation, give the owner the information that, hey, based on your current schedule, this doesn't work, but here are 3 suggestions that I have to make your project work and more profitable. Yeah. So really bringing us in as a company early to do that, I think is something that we'd like to be involved in more.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. So what do you see next for PPM at Binsky? Where are you going?
Ooh, just got to keep going, Gary, every single day. It's really it takes a long time to fully implement. We are still working through jobs that we still have jobs that are not running PPC. So I think in the near future, in the next 1 or 2 years, we'd like to fully move into all jobs running PPC and have all the processes documented for that. Mm-hmm. Kind of what's next for where we would like to go is we're right now we do a lot of work in pharmaceutical. We'd like to start looking a little bit more at energy transition and getting in touch with some of the owners to look at running PPC on some of their facilities that are being built across the country, and then data centers as well. It's kind of an ever expanding industry. And really, I know we are located in New Jersey, but we'd love to kind of extend this idea of PPC and run it with maybe even local subcontractors and try to take what all we've learned and from our experience and really bring it out of our bubble here.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years down the road?
Ooh, myself or
yourself and your company. What do you want to do, and where do you see your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Myself is I really am enjoying this. 5 years, 10 years, I love Binsky. It's a family company. It's kind of been my home, and my coworkers have really turned into my family. So being a part of that and watching us grow and get better at this, and even really, it's hard to see that far in the future because we're so new to this, and the results are so stark and drastic that it kind of shows us like, where can we take it next, right? Does that actually involve doing the construction itself? Does that involve working with owners and construction managers to try to help implement this philosophy? I think there's a lot of possibilities and opportunity out there. So really excited about it.
Yeah, that's a fact. So if kind of getting towards the end here, I really appreciate the time you're investing with us, share your experience. So if I'm somebody brand new to this, just heard about it, didn't have the ability to somebody saying, this is your job now, get over it. But you've got some advice to somebody that's just learning about this, just being exposed to it. What's your advice? What do you do? How do you make sense of it? How do you understand it? And they want to learn more. What do I do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing, so I actually am running our internship program this summer, and one of the internship program is actually directly related to implementing PPC on the job site. So I've been talking with these people, and they're like, what do I do to get this information? I always direct them and tell them, first thing you do is you go to the Project Production Institute website, you check it out, you start reading some of the materials. I always recommend them the book Built to Fail by Todd Zabel. I read that book and kind of had a lot of what I was seeing in the field just kind of clicked. Made sense. So just really, and the one thing is, as I kind of tell, is just be curious. We don't know what we don't know, and ask questions, and just be open-minded to think about things differently, because there's decades and decades of accumulated knowledge and just tradition that exists within our industry that we have to look past, and we have to look at to change to see what's not working and what can we do better, right? So just being curious and having an open mind.
Stay curious, read, get your hands dirty, learn by doing. No substitute for that.
No, unfortunately not. I know. I wish there was a magic pill you could take and just know it all, but the only way to know is to fail, right? So,
hey, you guys are doing something pretty unique with your intern program this year. Tell us about that. It's the first I heard about it a few days ago from your dad. So tell me more.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah, no, so this summer, in the past, we've brought interns in, they've done surveys of the company and have gotten an estimate and stuff. And what we based kind of on our experience of how our young people in our company, our young project engineers on the sites are learning, is we wanted to create and curate an internship program to bring in interns and assign them directly working for a project engineer. So they're working for them, they are running PPC on a daily basis, and the goal is I want them to walk away at the end of the summer to know and understand the work. And one of the things is kind of the challenges that I would like them to start to look at is I want you to see what's wrong on site. What do you see wrong, and how can we go and reanalyze our process? How do we remap the job and our sequence of how we're installing to start installing quicker and resolve those issues? So I'm really excited. It's going to be a fun process, and I think we're starting in June, so excited to talk about it more.
Hey, would you be open to perhaps? So these interns run, they're already starting and they run through summer? What's the
so they're starting June to August.
June to August. What would you, and this may not need to be in the recording, but what would you think about having an interview with your interns after the summer?
Oh, that would be great.
Give me the opportunity to talk with them and just see what they've learned and what they've acquired through the summer.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, no,
I think this is really a brilliant idea you guys have come up with. It's really a good way to transfer knowledge that early career folks, engineers in particular, really need to acquire how the work is done.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it because I know that they're all mechanical engineers who've never held a pipe wrench before, but I want them to learn and understand it. You know? And that's how we grow people. How are we going to grow people if you don't know the work, right?
Absolutely right.
Anybody can file a change order or do an RFI, but not everybody knows how pipes actually installed. Yeah. So I'm really excited for these kids.
So is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I have nothing else to add, but it's a lot of fun and really excited to kind of get out there and keep spreading the message.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing so freely of your experience in an honest and transparent way. It's very much appreciated. And I think our audience is really going to benefit from hearing a little bit about it, getting a taste of how it's transformed the way you're doing work and the kind of results that you're getting. That's just remarkable stuff. So thank you very much for your time, Bob.
Of course. Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. I really, really love this stuff and always looking for a platform to talk about it. So very excited. But thanks you very much, Gary. Appreciate it.